everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of our talk show, Girl Edition, a show where five girls will talk about our opinions on various topics and subject matters. Now, let's meet the girls. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Larry, and I'm 17 years old.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laurel Jones, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, I'm Emily Walker, and I'm 16 years old.
Hello, I'm Lauren Faria, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, I am Kimberly Melendez, and I am 17 years old.
Okay, so let's get into the first topic. So, for the first topic, it is, do you think we spend too much money on oceanography research or exploring the oceans?
I think I've always kind of been fascinated with the ocean and everything that could potentially be in there because there's still so much of it that is unexplored and the unknown. So I think that it's really cool to continue to research into the ocean and everything that is there. So I think it could potentially benefit us, and I don't think that we should stop that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah,
So
I completely agree.
When I had found I found a post on Instagram and it says, "Why are we still exploring the ocean? We all know what water is. All of the creatures who have lived down in the depths of the ocean have lived uninterrupted for all of this time, and we have found all of the food that tastes good already." And it kind of got me thinking to where it's kind of true if you kind of think about it. All the creatures who live in the ocean have lived uninterrupted through all of this time, and really there hasn't been anything that's happened with it. That's why I thought about it, but I know that there are lots of like marine life centers, especially on coasts, that they put all of their time, that's what they do. They put all of their time and money into researching the ocean. And it kind of made me wonder, if do we spend too much money or time on researching the oceans?
Honestly, I think it goes back to tracking natural disasters.
Mm-hmm.
A large way to track that is tectonic plates, earthquakes, and we don't know what's going to happen if we stop research altogether. Then we might not be able to stop a natural disaster, or possibly just keep people safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really fundamental to see what everything is down there, especially with the ecosystem. There could be things that are potentially helpful for medical research too.
Another thing I had thought of is, even if people didn't want to spend as much time and money exploring the ocean, we could use it for other things such as cleaning up beaches, because I know that's a really big problem.
That is true, because instead of using that money to continue, like I still feel that we should continue to research, but we could also use some of the research money to clean up the beaches, because that is then endangering the animals that are in the ocean that they're researching, that they're trying to help. So it kind of works both ways. So I think that would be something really beneficial for our world, honestly. So.
Yeah.
A lot of people dedicate their lives to researching the ocean and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important not to disregard people's passions for what they do, but also I think putting that time and research into helping the animals who live in the ocean who we might have harmed because of the way we live our lives as humans, I think it's really important that we spend maybe a little bit more on that.
Yeah, because that's true. People do go to school for that. Like, these are people's passions and their careers and what they want to do.
And I think for just a social media post too, to just kind of not really like dig deep into the topic, but just kind of make a joke out of it and like surface talk with it. I think it's not really accurate. And if you really think about the pros and cons to it, there's a lot more to it.
It's really biased, especially. And I was looking in the comments, and there were a lot of people who were completely disagreeing with what they had to say. But then there were other people who were saying, well, what about this? Well, what if you do this and this and that? And I think that with the social media post, you really need to make sure it's direct on what you're posting, because otherwise it'll have backlash. But everything you post can have backlash. So
yeah.
Also, ocean research corresponds with space research. A lot of astronauts spend training underwater, really training under like different environment, and using that ocean research, it will help us maybe go into Mars. We're considered the Artemis generation, and we're going to be sending the first person up to Mars. So just training underwater is also going to correspond with going to space.
I think there's a lot more positives than the negatives to it.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, so moving on to our next topic. So my question is, how important do you feel that mental health awareness was before COVID-19? And how does its importance change during and as we are trying to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic?
I definitely think I definitely think it's so much more important now. I think that I look at it from a standpoint as me going to school. And we got out of most people for the COVID pandemic got out of school in March. When we go back to school in August or September, that's roughly about 6 months. And you have to think about there are kids who can't leave their houses. They're not allowed to see their friends. They don't have internet or social media contact. And that takes a big toll on people's mental health. I mean, you're in a house in your room for 6 months and you have no contact with people. And I definitely think that can really deteriorate people's mental health.
Exactly.
I
And I
agree.
think during quarantine, especially where everything in Texas was shut down, you were isolated and you didn't have that physical and mental contact with the person. And it really can just leave you sitting around in your thoughts, which is a part of like anxiety. And for me, I did get, a little nervous during quarantine with the uncertainty, and my anxiety was really bad. So I started like a gratitude journal, and I started organizing my thoughts and notebooks and everything. And I think it really helped. But during like COVID-19, I think it was really important to stay who you are and stay healthy.
Going
I
along
agree.
going along with what Emily said, it's so important to stay thankful during this time, understanding that a lot of people are going through worse times, but also stay mindful of what you're feeling, and it's okay. All your feelings are valid. Understand that, and everything that you're going through is normal. We are living in unprecedented times. You have no idea what's going to happen, and that builds up a lot of anxiety. And it's harder for us to decompress without someone to talk to in person. So just becoming more mindful of what you're feeling, but also being thankful for what you have.
Yeah. So kind of going off of both Lauren and Emily, I think that having the journal is such a good idea. That's actually something I started as well during quarantine, just because I found myself kind of just sitting around and having really nothing to do. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keeping a journal and keeping myself busy and occupied. So I'm a singer, so I love singing. So anytime that I could, I was singing. I was going outside, going to the pool, just trying to keep myself occupied. And same thing with Lauren. This is a very unprecedented time, and we are all kind of just going with whatever's thrown at us. And especially, I know a few of us are going to be seniors this coming year, and so that kind of took a toll on me. I was like, this is going to affect my senior year. Like, we've worked so hard to get here, and now it's all going to get taken away from us. And so I think that instead of using this as something that's going to take it away from us, I think we can use this as an opportunity for change and building new traditions that still we are able to come together as a class and as the 2021 people. And I think it'll be good for us to join together and make something new for us that's unique to our class, because this doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
So we need to join together and use this as an opportunity instead of something that can hold us back and keep us not in a good mental health mindset.
Yeah. And I think finding what works best for you, whether it be journaling or singing. For me, it was dancing and listening to music. I love turning off the lights and having like this little lamp on. So it's like a soft light, and just dancing and expressing myself. And I think it also kept my mind off of things, because I think during quarantine, a lot of us were shifting to a lot of social media time, which can be very unhealthy. So I started limiting social media, because that's all I was doing, is finding myself on TikTok and Instagram and Snapchat, because there was nothing else to do. I couldn't go anywhere. And so finding those little things that doesn't have to do with your phone, and finding what works best for you is really important.
For sure.
I know
Finding
that
those outlets.
I know that for me, I picked up a whole bunch of new hobbies as well. I went and bought some coloring books and some markers. I went outside and got some chalk. I have a keyboard in my room that I got for Christmas. And honestly, from like Christmas to March, I didn't play it very often. But once quarantine started, I started looking up some new songs. I started playing a lot more. But I think quarantine was also a great opportunity for people to pick up new hobbies and find really new interests that they didn't know that they had.
Yeah, I feel like quarantine is a great way to explore who you really are.
Yes.
It's it's tough, but it's also so beneficial because you get to explore who you are, something that you wouldn't really necessarily be able to do if you're surrounded by people, just really getting to know who you are as a person.
I agree. Going back to what you guys were talking about earlier with the whole feeling out of touch with people and being isolated and just not being able to contact people, I think it's important to recognize that even before we had this whole quarantine, it's easy to feel like that even when you're surrounded by everyone. And so going to school and being around a bunch of people, yes, that can happen. And so I think it's important to recognize that we are all feeling the same way right now, but there were people who were feeling like that before. And so the people who felt like that before, they're like, oh, so now you guys care. And that's been an attitude that I've heard for some people who are talking about it, how like, oh, now we're focusing on mental health because we have to. And I think it's important to really help people who have been feeling it for a long time, and with this new pandemic going on. So
one more thing really quickly going off of that before we move on. 100% Kim, I agree with that because I've struggled with my mental health since 7th grade, and so it has definitely been something that has been a challenge. It has been something that I've had to work through, and I totally agree with that standpoint that I think that even though before mental health was something that wasn't really talked about as much, I think now we can use this as an opportunity to really start speaking up and starting those conversations that should have been started years and years ago. So that's a great point.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. How do you guys stay motivated and determined to live a healthy lifestyle, especially during quarantine? I think that's when everybody was at home, so they were picking up different things. Like I started new workout challenges and eating healthier, but what is y'all's way to stay motivated?
So I'm in AFJROTC, and I have my teacher, Colonel Hansen. He is obsessed with this podcast. It's by Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL, and I love listening to him. But he says motivation can only get you so far. The space between motivation and your goals is discipline. So having that discipline, implementing in your life, will help you not only reach your goals, but also help you become a more rounded person.
I know something that's helped me stay active is, honestly, it's gonna sound cheesy, but I have seen so many like dancers and like gymnasts on TikTok, and honestly, they do different dances, and I've gone to the dance studio, I go to gymnastics now, but just it kind of makes me want to get out and go outside and do stuff because I see all these people doing all these creative things that they're so great at, and it's like, hey, I want to try that. But I think that there are so many social media, especially seeing like all these workout things on social media where people are like, oh, try this like 10-day workout craze, and it kind of just, I don't know, it motivates me seeing that other people are doing it. It kind of makes me want to do it.
I agree with that. And so I'm also a cheerleader, and so that is kind of what motivates me to stay active, because I know that when we are able to go back to cheer practice, I don't want it to like hit me like a truck. So that's kind of been something that's like, well, if I don't want to die then at cheer practice, I might as well start staying
conditioned now.
Fitness. Exactly. So that's kind of been something that's kept me active, and just it gives me a chance to get out of the house if I go for a run or something. It's some time out. So that's been something that's been
it kind of goes back to the whole mental health during COVID. I think one of the things I picked up to stay healthy and to keep my mind off of things was different workouts and different recipes to try new healthy meals, going on runs and walks with friends. I went and played golf. Who knew? I went and played golf with my friends. Did I miss the ball? A lot. But I was out doing something.
I have never played golf except for on the Wii.
It's really hard. I was like, oh, it can't be that hard. Oh, no. Yeah. There was a lot of holes in the ground. Kept hitting the ground.
Something that keeps me motivated is, so we're doing school from home and we're in our beds typing all day long, and it's tiring. Just like that whole, like, you feel gross just sitting there all day. It's just like this fatigue like on your body and your brain. It's just so just getting out, doing something. I'm like allergic to the environment, so going outside for me is just I do a walk every day or I'll ride my bike or something. I try to do that because I get allergy shots. Thank God for those. But I have this new game, guys, it's amazing. So it's on the Switch and it's called My Ring Fit Adventure. And it's like Super Mario Bros. Meets going to the gym. And so basically how you do it is you defeat monsters with your epic fitness skills and you do like squats or like crunches. It's amazing. So that's kept me motivated.
Does sound cool.
It's like a game, so you're interested because I can't like play games like that because the same thing, fatigue. It's just like too much. So but like you're actually moving in the game, you have to run to move. And you have to pull the thing and you have to jump and you have to do high knees, which
it keeps you physically active while you're playing a game.
I think that's super important to figure out kind of what works for you when it comes to fitness and what you like doing, because for me personally, I hate just like sitting there and working out and going through the motions. Like I love things that if I'm like following a video or if it's like a dance that's a workout dance, like I have to find something that's like upbeat and fun because I feel so like bleh whenever
it's like that Zumba.
Okay, now I'm gonna do some push-ups, you know.
Like the Zumba classes or like the
I remember that
dancing.
Yeah, there's a Hamilton dance workout on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I did that and it was so much fun. Oh, there's a Mulan one and it was so hard. I couldn't watch it.
Their dance workouts?
Yes, their dance workouts. It's
so
incredible.
Fun.
Yeah,
there's a Mulan one. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Hamilton, so I definitely am gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
So our viewers,
it's this one girl and she does all the Disney dances.
That's so fun.
I'll have to find that.
Okay, so going on to our next topic, I was really researching a lot of people to just bring up. They've spread a lot of light, and Madeleine Sweigel became the first U.S. Navy female fighter pilot. And my question is, why do you think it's taking so long to see equal representation in job fields?
I definitely think it's the older generation's perspective, that the female is the weaker gender. And so I think it's slowly changing because they've taught little boys and little girls that we're equal and that not like male isn't stronger and female isn't stronger, that we're on the same playing field. So I definitely think that the perspective has changed over the years and we've made progress. I think it's just took a little bit time.
I agree with that, Emily. I think that it all starts off from how you're taught from a young age. And if your parents enrich you with the fact of equality and that everyone is here to work together, I think those qualities will stay with you until you're older and when you're in the workforce. And I think that'll make just a more equal place for everyone in the workforce. And so I think it all starts from how you're raised. And if we continue, like our generation continues to do this, I think that hopefully we will be able to bridge that gap.
I agree with that, but I also think it comes from what we are taught in school. I know that when I was younger and we had to move chairs or something, they always called the boys to move the chairs before they called the girls. Or if we had to lift heavy things, it was always the boys that had to lift. And I was always like, I'm a strong girl. Like, I can help move that.
I can carry a chair.
Exactly. I think it's also how it's displayed in school from a young age, because I think that not necessarily saying our teachers enrich that in us, but it kind of starts off as they think that boys are doing these stronger things or boys are doing more masculine things such as lifting things, or that girls don't want to play basketball in school. Like it's always things like that they don't necessarily give girls the option to do when we were younger in school, or they don't recommend us doing that when we were younger in school.
I think it just became a habit for teachers too.
Yeah.
To go ahead and say the guys do that, and it wasn't. I don't know. It just.
And it wasn't like they were doing it out of exactly. They probably weren't doing it.
They were doing it
like out of trying to be mean or trying to
on purpose. They probably just did it because that was the way it was brought up to them as well.
Exactly. It's like, oh, they're the boy. They're supposed to be the strong masculine figure, and they're supposed to do all of this for the girls. But no, it's like in reality, we can do it for ourselves.
Exactly, and I think that's how. That's also why.
Honestly, I'm seeing this in like history. We barely learn about like the female leaders. We learn about female leaders during the suffrage movement. And there's so much stuff that there's so many things that females have done, like created so many inventions that aren't really even brought up to light. One of my favorite movies, Hidden Figures, it really shows how women were involved, and that's just something that I wish would have been shown so much sooner.
Who discovered DNA? A woman. Who got the credit? Men.
Yeah.
I know that I was
Ridiculous.
just taking a government summer class, and a lot of the main topics were the giant points that males made in history. And one of the only few women topics were when women were given the right to vote, when women fought for equal pay in the employment fields. But like there weren't very many like large scale topics where women were brought up in a good way. It was always the giant things that males did when males ran for office, when males were given the right to do this. But I just think that if we teach this at a younger age, that it'll help more when they get older.
Yeah, and I think it's sad for younger girls who sit in a history class and they think that these male leaders did everything. I mean, male leaders did play a huge part and today, but I think, teaching the female leaders is as important. And you should balance that of what you teach.
Yeah, it almost discourages females to want to go into the government or into a political standing, because all we're taught is, oh, males do this, males do that, like it's all about them. So
well, going into our next topic, I want to ask a question. So how do you think diet culture is affecting our generation and possibly future generations?
I think that it affects our generation greatly. I think that we see all of these figures on social media, and it kind of pushes us to be like them and to look like them. Well, they're on this diet and they're doing this and this and this to get their bodies to look perfect. And I think that society really pushes us, especially our generation as teenagers, it pushes us that we have to have this perfect supermodel body, when in reality, people comes in all different shapes and sizes, and that we don't, and that it's okay to look how you look.
Yeah.
It's like a cookie cutter mold. They're trying to force us to all look like this one thing and to make us, I think they make us think that that's what we have to look like to be considered beautiful. But everybody is beautiful and unique in their own way. And I think every time you turn around too, there's lose 10 pounds like this, lose 10 pounds like this 30-day challenge, this keto diet, there's all these different medicines and pills and shakes too. I always see shakes. It's all this stuff, and you're surrounded, and you feel like when you get on social media or you start thinking about fitness, it's all this diet stuff, and it makes you start thinking like, where do I even start?
It makes you compare yourself to other people.
And you get on social media, and there's all these girls that are our age or younger that those are posed pictures too. Like they might look like that in that picture, but that's sucking in, that's a pose, like
turning to the side, angles,
angles. And
have you guys seen the memes? Like, oh, this is girls in middle school when I was
in middle school and girls in middle school.
Oh my gosh,
now.
I see some girls
seen
now.
The memes.
I see some girls now, and I'm like, I looked nothing like that when I was 30.
That's how I am. I like, because I work at a tumbling gym, and so I see these girls come in, and I look at them, and I'm like, oh, she must be like 15. And then they're like 12, and I'm like, I did not look like that when I was 12. Like,
oh my gosh,
what?
And when
they have these expectations on them now.
Exactly.
And I feel like
we have to fit that mold.
Yeah, when we were younger, and I think social media wasn't as big as, and I mean, it was like that was kind of like it's starting to like rise. But and there wasn't getting on it and seeing all these like teenage girls in swimsuits and like these workout pictures. So we didn't have that like that expectation to look like that. Yeah, it was really just who you went to school with. Yeah, it was really just who you went to school with, and that's what you compared yourself to. But even then, I didn't even have the mindset of comparing, because I knew everybody's unique. And then you get on social media now, and I'm like, these little girls are looking up to these perfect people that don't look their age, because they're these models. And
we all are. Sure. I mean, not just little girls. I mean, there's 30-year-old women who are like,
Yeah.
I mean,
God,
it's
they have to
all
look
of
like
us. It's a standard for
Kardashian.
women, all women that are,
Yes.
no matter who you are, what your age is, to look a certain way.
Going off what you said earlier, Emily, it's all these fad diets. I feel like people think if they take this pill or do this diet, they're going to lose like 20 pounds instantly. I feel like we live in a generation that everything is just so fast. I mean, we've seen the phone progress so much in the last 10 years. And we think if we get this progress within like 2 weeks, we're considered successful, when in reality, it takes patience. And I feel like that just adds a lot of added pressure on like the younger generation.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, I believe we are finished with our first ever Girl Edition podcast. We had so much fun today, and thank you all so much for tuning in. Don't forget to come back on September 1st at 11:30 to see our second Girl Edition podcast. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.